Elias drifted through the silent void of space, the hum of his small scout ship echoing faintly in the empty cockpit. He had been mapping abandoned systems at the galaxy's edge for months, collecting data on worlds long forgotten by time. Most of the planets were lifeless, blasted remnants of wars that had ended centuries ago. He had grown used to the emptiness, to the feeling that the stars themselves were watching and waiting. Yet something about the planet ahead drew his attention. It appeared dead at first glance, gray, scarred, and cracked, but a faint golden glimmer at its surface caught his eye. He maneuvered the ship closer, scanning the terrain. The readings were unusual. Life signs were faint but present. How could life survive on such a dead world? Curiosity and a sense of responsibility pushed him forward. Elias had always believed that no being should be left to die if he could help it. That principle had guided him through countless dangers, and it would guide him now. The ship's landing gear rattled as it touched down on the desolate surface. Dust rose in slow clouds, swirling in the weak gravity. Elias stepped outside, the visor of his helmet reflecting the gray wasteland. Craters and ruins stretched as far as the eye could see. Structures, half buried and broken, hinted at a civilization that had been destroyed long ago. Among the ruins he spotted the golden glow again, flickering like a tiny sun trapped within the wreckage. He moved carefully, boots crunching over the brittle ground. As he approached, he realized the glow came from within what remained of a collapsed tower. Inside, amid twisted metal and shattered stone, he saw it. A small child, glowing golden from head to toe, curled in the wreckage. She was no larger than a human toddler, but her presence was astonishing. She breathed softly, eyes closed, as if she were dreaming. Around her, the remnants of ancient alien technology hummed faintly, protective systems struggling to function after centuries of neglect. Elias felt his heart tighten. She was alive and alone. He knelt beside her, checking her for injuries. Her skin was warm, unusually so for the dead world. He could feel a strange energy radiating from her body, pulsing like a heartbeat that belonged to the planet itself. "You... alive," he whispered, more to himself than to her. The child stirred, blinking golden eyes that reflected the pale light of the dying sun. She looked at him with an intelligence that startled him. It was as if she understood everything at once. The world, him, the danger. A small hand reached out, brushing his glove, and a jolt of warmth surged through him. Elias glanced around nervously. He knew the galaxy was dangerous. Whoever this child was, she might be hunted. He had read reports of species that were nearly wiped out by wars long forgotten. Could this child be one of them? Leaving her here meant certain death. Taking her might bring danger to himself, but he could not abandon her. With care, he lifted her from the wreckage. The child rested easily in his arms, as if she trusted him instinctively. Her golden glow dimmed slightly as she adjusted to his warmth, yet it never went out entirely. Elias carried her back to his ship, keeping his eyes on the horizon. Shadows moved among the ruins, subtle disturbances in the wind, but when he turned, nothing was there. Still, he felt he was not entirely alone. Once aboard, he secured her in the passenger compartment. The ship's systems scanned her automatically. The readings were unusual. Her biology did not match anything in human databases. Energy patterns, tissue composition, neural activity. They all defied understanding. Elias frowned. He had no idea what she was, or what she might become, but he knew she needed protection. As the ship lifted off, he spoke softly to her. "I'm Elias. I'll take care of you. You're safe now." The child watched him with wide eyes, a faint smile forming on her lips. In that moment, he felt a bond stronger than anything he had ever known. He had saved her life, but he could not have imagined how profoundly she would change his own. The journey back to the nearest colony was long. Elias kept her hidden, away from prying eyes, and spoke to her often. She responded in ways he could barely comprehend, not with words at first, but with gestures, expressions, and an almost human understanding of emotion. Within days, she was walking, then running around the ship's small corridors with astonishing speed. Elias could only marvel at her agility and intelligence. At night, when the stars stretched across the void like rivers of light, he would watch her sleep. Her golden glow filled the darkened cabin, casting soft shadows on the walls. He wondered about her people, if any still existed, and whether she remembered them. She never spoke of her past, yet sometimes she hummed melodies that sounded like they belonged to a lost language, a song older than the galaxy itself. As weeks turned into months, the child, whom he named Solis, grew quickly. She learned languages instantly, absorbing knowledge from every book, every recording, every conversation. She asked questions no child should know to ask. About politics, about history, about the nature of life and death. Elias did his best to answer, but often he found himself amazed that such a small being could think so deeply.
One evening, as they watched the twin suns set over the colony's horizon, Solis spoke clearly for the first time. "Why did you save me?" Her voice was soft but carried an authority that startled him.
Elias hesitated. Because I could not let you die," he said finally. "No one deserves to be left alone to face the end." Solis nodded as if she understood something that humans could never fully grasp. She reached out, touching his hand with a warmth that made his chest ache. "Then I will not forget," she said. "I will remember what you have done for me." Years passed, and Elias raised her in secrecy on the quiet colony. She became stronger, faster, and wiser with each passing year. Despite her alien nature, she learned to live among humans, blending in while remaining extraordinary. Yet the universe never forgets. Strange ships began to appear near the colony, scanning for unknown energy signatures. Elias knew then that the galaxy might be searching for her, that those who had destroyed her world might still linger, waiting for a chance to finish what they had started. One night, while Elias was repairing a damaged section of the colony's communications array, he felt a sudden warmth in the air. A golden light filled the room, blinding him. Solis stood before him, radiant and powerful beyond anything he could comprehend. She looked older, more commanding, yet still the same child he had saved so many years ago. "Elias," she said, her voice echoing like music, "I must go." Before he could ask why, she vanished in a burst of golden light, leaving behind only a faint shimmer in the air and a single thought in his mind. "I will return." He felt a mixture of pride, worry, and longing. He had raised her, guided her, loved her as a father might love a child who was not entirely human. And now she had gone, returning to a destiny far beyond his understanding. He knew, deep down, that the day would come when Solis would return. When that day came, the galaxy itself might never be the same. But for now, all he could do was wait, tend to the colony, and hope that the bond they shared would survive the years and distance between them. As he looked out at the stars, Elias whispered into the night, "I saved you once. If you return, I will be here." And somewhere, across the expanse of space, a golden light traveled silently, carrying a promise that would change the fate of countless worlds. 50 years had passed since Solis had disappeared in that golden burst of light. Elias had grown old, his hair white and his body slowed by time. But his mind remained sharp. He often sat on the porch of his modest home on the quiet colony, gazing at the stars, wondering where Solis had gone, what she had become, and whether she would ever return. He had told himself countless times that he must live his life without hope of her return, yet every golden sunrise reminded him of her, and every whisper of the wind seemed to carry her voice. The colony had changed over the decades. Human settlements had spread across nearby worlds, mining stations had been built, and trade routes now connected systems that had once been isolated. Yet, despite the bustling activity of space commerce, Elias felt the same emptiness he had felt when he first found Solis on the dead world. The galaxy had grown larger, more dangerous, and he had grown smaller in comparison. Then, one day, the sky changed. It began with a flicker at the edge of the system, a shimmer of golden light that seemed unnatural among the familiar stars. Ships in orbit scrambled, alarms blared, and sensors went haywire. The golden glimmer grew larger, becoming a fleet unlike anything the human colonies had ever seen. Ships of all shapes and sizes, glowing with a radiant energy, appeared from nowhere, moving with precision and authority. Elias felt his heart stop. He had seen this light before, long ago, in the arms of a child who had vanished decades ago. He did not need confirmation. He knew who was coming. The largest ship, a massive golden flagship that radiated power like a miniature sun, descended into orbit above the colony. Its surface shimmered and shifted, as if alive. Elias could see figures moving within, their silhouettes tall and elegant, their forms glowing faintly. The colony's defense forces mobilized, but they were no match for technology so far beyond their understanding. Humans watched from below in awe and fear, unsure whether to greet the newcomers as saviors or enemies. Solis stepped from the flagship, her golden form brighter than ever, her presence commanding and serene. She was taller now, fully grown, and radiated a quiet authority that silenced every voice. Even from the ground, Elias could see her eyes, piercing, intelligent, and filled with the same warmth he had known when she was a child. Solis raised her hand in a slow gesture, and the colony's sensors fell silent. The human leaders, unsure of what to do, lowered their weapons. The golden child who had once been vulnerable was now a leader, a figure whose power was undeniable. Elias stepped forward, trembling. "Solis," he whispered. She looked directly at him, her expression softening as recognition sparked in her eyes. "Elias," she said, her voice carrying across the open space like music. "I have returned, as I promised." She descended from her ship with grace, and as she touched the ground, golden light spread from her feet, bathing the colony in warmth. People gasped, some shielding their eyes. Solis's appearance alone spoke of hope, of power, and of a future humanity could not yet imagine. Solis explained that she had traveled far across the galaxy, finding survivors of her species and rebuilding what had been lost. She had spent decades restoring ancient technologies, uncovering hidden knowledge, and forming alliances with civilizations that had once been enemies. The child Elias had saved had grown into a leader, an empress of a civilization that had risen from the ashes of destruction. Yet her return was not without peril. She revealed that an enemy coalition, the same forces that had once destroyed her home, had traced her rise and was now moving to strike Earth. They feared her power, feared what she represented, a new order, a chance for civilizations to survive rather than be destroyed. Solis had returned not just to reconnect with Elias, but to protect the planet that had sheltered her and to confront the remnants of a ruthless coalition. Elias felt a mix of awe and fear. He had known she was powerful, but seeing her command fleets, seeing the respect and obedience of her people, left him stunned. Yet he also realized the danger they faced. The galaxy was not kind to those who rose too quickly, and Solis's enemies would not rest until she was gone. As Solis moved through the colony, she inspected the human defenses, learning their strengths and weaknesses in minutes. She spoke to the leaders calmly but firmly, offering guidance that was both practical and visionary. "Your people are strong," she said, "but alone. They are vulnerable. Together, we can protect this world and prepare for what comes." Elias watched her work, pride swelling in his chest. She had become everything he had hoped for and more. Yet he remembered the small child who had clung to him in the ruins. That same child now commanded fleets, spoke with authority, and radiated power that could shape the fate of the galaxy. And still, when she looked at him, There was love, gratitude, and recognition. But peace was fleeting. Scanners detected a fleet entering the solar system, larger and more menacing than any humanity had faced. The enemy coalition had found them, and they were coming to destroy the planet that had sheltered Solis. Panic spread among human leaders, but Solis remained calm. She turned to Elias, her golden eyes steady. "I need your help," she said. Elias hesitated. He was old, his body frail, but his mind was sharp. He had once saved her life, and now she asked him to stand beside her in the defense of the galaxy. He nodded without a word. "I will help," he said. "Whatever you need." Solis smiled, a warmth in her expression that reminded him of the child she had once been. "Your courage has always been greater than you realize," she said. The enemy fleet moved closer, their ships bristling with weapons designed to destroy worlds. Solis's forces, a mix of her own people and allied civilizations she had gathered, prepared to meet them in battle. Human ships joined the formation, guided by Solis's strategies, and together they formed a shield around Earth. The battle began with sudden violence. Beams of light tore through the void. Ships collided, and explosions lit the darkness. Human soldiers watched in awe as Solis's command transformed chaos into order. She moved through the battlefield like a conductor, her fleets responding to her gestures and commands with precision. Elias remained on the ground, coordinating with Solis's advisors. He provided information about human defenses, tactical knowledge, and insight into the enemy's likely moves. His experience and her power combined in a way that gave the colony a fighting chance. Amid the chaos, Solis demonstrated abilities that went beyond technology. She could manipulate energy, heal the wounded, and create protective fields that shielded entire sections of the fleet. Her presence inspired humans and aliens alike, giving them hope in a battle that seemed hopeless. Yet even with all her power, Solis faced difficult decisions. She had to balance the safety of the planet with the lives of her people, all while confronting the enemy who had once nearly wiped out her species. Every choice carried weight, and the wrong move could mean annihilation. During a brief lull in the fighting, Solis returned to Elias's side. He saw fatigue in her eyes, though her aura remained bright and commanding.
"I never imagined it would be like this," she said softly.
"You've faced worse," Elias replied. "And you're not alone."
"I'm here, and humanity stands with you." Her golden glow intensified briefly, as if she drew strength from his words. "You taught me that courage matters," she said. "That compassion matters. That one life, one choice, can change everything. You saved me once, Elias.
Now together we will save them all."
Solis raised her hand, and golden beams of energy cascaded outward, forming shields around human cities and Solis's command ships. Her voice carried across the battlefield, calm but powerful. "Stand together. Fight with courage. Protect this world and all who dwell upon it." Elias felt a surge of pride and fear as he watched the two civilizations clash. He realized that the child he had saved on a dead world had become a symbol, not just for her people, but for all who believed in hope, courage, and the value of life. Humanity was witnessing something extraordinary, a being who embodied everything they aspired to be, leading with wisdom, strength, and compassion. As the battle raged on, Elias remained at Solis's side, guiding, advising, and remembering the small child who had once clung to him for life. She had returned, powerful and radiant, but she was still the same being he had saved, and he knew that whatever came next, the bond they shared would guide them through the trials ahead. The part ended with the enemy fleet retreating for the moment, regrouping for another attack. Solis stood above the colony, golden and commanding, looking out into the stars. "They will return," she said, more to herself than anyone else, "and when they do, we will be ready." Elias watched her, awe and love filling his chest. He knew that the galaxy was changing, that humanity had stepped into a larger world, and that the child he had saved long ago was now the key to a future he could barely imagine. And as the golden light of Solis bathed the colony, Elias realized that hope was no longer a distant dream. It was real, it was powerful, and it was standing right beside him. The galaxy trembled as the enemy coalition advanced. Their ships moved with deadly precision, fleets larger and more powerful than anything humanity had faced. Even the most advanced human vessels felt fragile compared to the alien technology Solis commanded. She stood aboard her flagship, her golden form radiant, directing the movements of her armada with calm authority. Every gesture, every decision she made shaped the tide of battle. Elias watched from the observation deck, leaning heavily on the railing. His body was old, his muscles weak, but his mind remained sharp. He had fought in skirmishes before, but this was unlike anything he had seen. Ships the size of cities collided in the void, energy beams cut through space like lightning, and the stars themselves seemed to burn from the heat of the conflict. Yet Solis remained composed, a beacon of hope amid chaos.
"They're stronger than I expected," Elias said quietly. Solis glanced at him, her golden eyes unwavering.
"Strength alone does not win a war," she replied. "Strategy, courage, and unity do. Humanity has taught me that, Elias, and I will use everything I have learned to protect this world. And you." The enemy fleet had a plan: to target Earth directly, believing that destroying the planet would break Solis's connection to her human allies and cripple her influence. Their first wave struck the outer colonies, seeking to draw Solis away, but she anticipated the move. Her fleet split strategically, leaving a small force to defend the colonies while she prepared to confront the main enemy armada. Elias helped coordinate the human defenses, his knowledge of planetary systems and old navigation routes proving invaluable. He advised Solis on the hidden satellites, defensive stations, and asteroid belts that could be used to trap enemy ships. Though he was no longer a soldier, his mind was a weapon in its own right. As the main battle began near Earth's orbit, Solis unleashed the full extent of her power. Golden beams of energy erupted from her flagship, deflecting attacks, disabling enemy engines, and creating protective shields around human cities. Her fleet responded with astonishing speed, coordinating maneuvers with precision that no human commander could match. From the ground, humans watched in awe. They had heard stories of alien civilizations and cosmic powers, but nothing could prepare them for this display. Entire fleets moved as one, guided by the will of Solis. Her people, who had once been scattered and nearly destroyed, now fought with unity and discipline, their loyalty to her absolute. Yet the enemy was relentless. They adapted quickly, using stealth technology, hacking attempts, and coordinated strikes to exploit weaknesses. Solis realized that brute force alone would not win the day. She needed a strategy that leveraged not just technology, but intelligence, human ingenuity, and the courage of those who stood beside her. Elias suggested an old tactic, one he had read about in history books from Earth. A decoy maneuver, using smaller ships to distract the enemy. They could lead them into an asteroid field where larger ships could ambush them. Solis considered it carefully. "It's risky," she said, "but it could work." They set the plan into motion. Human pilots, guided by Elias, flew daring sorties to draw enemy ships toward the asteroid belt. The enemy followed, believing they were advancing on vulnerable targets. Solis's fleet waited in ambush, hidden among the rocks and debris, ready to strike. The ambush began with sudden ferocity. Beams of golden energy tore through enemy vessels, disabling them in seconds. Ships collided with asteroids, and the enemy's formation collapsed under the combined assault. Solis moved among her fleet, directing reinforcements, repairing damaged vessels instantly with her powers, and inspiring her allies with courage. Amid the chaos, a massive enemy command ship attempted to escape, its engines blazing with destructive energy. Solis acted quickly. She launched herself in her golden form, a streak of light moving faster than any ship. She entered the command vessel's hull with a surge of energy, disabling its systems from within. The enemy fleet faltered, leaderless and confused. Elias watched in amazement. The child he had saved on a dead world decades ago was now a force capable of turning the tide of an entire war. Her power was awe-inspiring, but he could also see the toll it took on her. Each burst of energy drained her. Each decision weighed heavily on her. She was not invincible, and yet she carried the hopes of countless beings on her shoulders. During a brief lull in the fighting, Solis returned to the observation deck where Elias waited. "The battle is not over," she said, her golden glow flickering slightly.
They will regroup, but we have bought time and Earth has survived.
For now.
Elias nodded. Elias nodded.
You've done more than anyone could imagine. Humanity owes you its life. Solis's eyes softened. No, Elias, humanity owes itself. Courage, wisdom, and compassion have always been your strength. You taught me that. You saved me once, and now your people are helping to save countless others. As the enemy fleet began to retreat, regrouping in distant systems, Solis knew this was only the beginning. They would return with greater force, more cunning strategies, and new weapons. She had to prepare not just for defense, but for the long war ahead, and she could not do it alone. She needed humanity to rise with her, to embrace courage, intelligence, and unity, the qualities that had always defined their species. Elias remained at her side, helping coordinate the next steps. Together they repaired damaged ships, trained human pilots in advanced maneuvers, and reinforced planetary defenses. Humanity had never faced such a threat, but under Solis's guidance, they began to understand their own potential. They were not merely passive observers of the galaxy. They could be active participants, shaping the course of events through courage and determination. In private moments, Solis confided in Elias about the burden of leadership. "Every life lost weighs on me," she admitted.
Every decision carries consequences I cannot undo. I feel responsible for all of them.
"You are not alone," he said gently. "You have allies, and you have people who believe in you. Even in the darkest moments, you are not alone." Her golden glow brightened at his words, a silent acknowledgement of the bond they shared. Elias realized that despite her power, Solis remained the child he had once cradled in his arms, a being capable of immense love and empathy. Her strength was not just in her abilities, but in her heart, and that heart had been shaped by human kindness. The enemy returned sooner than expected, striking with a fleet even larger than before. The battle raged across multiple star systems, with Earth at the center of the conflict. Solis led her forces with brilliance, coordinating attacks and defenses simultaneously, moving faster than any human eye could follow. Human pilots, inspired by her example, performed daring maneuvers, saving countless ships and lives. Elias found himself in the command center of Earth's defense grid, guiding human forces as they integrated with Solis's fleet. His knowledge of terrain, old star routes, and defensive tactics proved invaluable. He realized that courage and intelligence were just as important as power, and humanity had both in abundance. The climax of the battle came when Solis confronted the enemy commander personally. In her golden form, she entered the enemy flagship, disabling critical systems and neutralizing their weapons. Her presence was overwhelming, and the enemy fleet faltered without direction. She did not strike out of anger, but with precision and mercy, ensuring that the war could end without unnecessary slaughter. As the enemy fleet retreated in defeat, Solis emerged victorious, though visibly exhausted. The galaxy had witnessed her power, and humanity had witnessed their potential. The bond between human courage and Solis's extraordinary abilities had turned the tide of war, proving that hope, compassion, and unity could overcome even the greatest threats. Elias approached her as she descended from her flagship. "You did it," he said softly.
"The battle is won!" Solis smiled. golden light radiating around her. For now, she said.
But the galaxy is vast, and threats will come again. We must remain vigilant, and humanity must continue to grow stronger.
Courage is not a single act. It is a choice we make every day. Elias nodded, pride swelling in his chest. He had saved a child on a dead world. And that child had returned to save not just humanity, but countless civilizations. He realized that their bond, forged in compassion and trust, had shaped the future of the galaxy. As they looked out at the stars, Elias felt hope for the first time in decades. The galaxy was dangerous, but it was also full of possibilities. Solis had returned, and with her, humanity had found a new place in the cosmos. The future was uncertain, but together they could face whatever challenges lay ahead. The part ended with Solis standing above the battlefield, her golden glow shining across the stars, a symbol of hope, courage, and unity. Elias watched from the command center, knowing that the story was far from over, but confident that the child he had saved would continue to guide and protect all who looked to the stars with hope. The war had ended, but the galaxy was not yet at peace. The remnants of the enemy coalition had scattered to distant systems, nursing their losses and planning future strikes.
Solis stood aboard her flagship, her golden light casting warmth across the command deck, watching the stars with a mixture of determination and exhaustion.
Her fleet, though victorious, had suffered damage. Many ships needed repair, and countless lives had been lost. She could feel the weight of responsibility pressing on her shoulders, heavier than any weapon or armor. Elias, now frail with age, stood beside her. He had helped guide humanity through the battle, advised on defensive strategies, and witnessed firsthand the extraordinary power of the being he had once saved. Yet he had never imagined he would see the galaxy itself change because of one act of compassion decades ago.
"You've done more than I ever imagined," Elias said softly. "You've saved billions of lives, Solis."
"You've changed the course of history." And Solis turned her glowing eyes toward him, a softness in her gaze that reminded him of the child she had once been.
"No, Elias,"
she replied. "You saved me. Your choice to protect a fragile life sparked everything that followed. Without that, none of this would have been possible." The fleet began the long journey to restore the damaged colonies and secure fragile alliances. Solis personally oversaw the repairs, healing the wounded, and coordinating resources with precision. Her people had come to trust her judgment without question, and humanity had learned to follow her lead while maintaining their own initiative. Together, they were forging a new model for the galaxy, one built on cooperation, not domination. Back on Earth, governments and civilians alike looked up at the sky in awe. Solis had returned as more than a savior. She was a symbol of hope. Entire populations had been inspired by her courage and wisdom. She had shown humanity the possibilities that lay beyond their planet, and they had risen to meet them. For the first time, humans realized they were not merely observers in the galaxy. They were participants, capable of shaping their destiny. Solis took Elias to the capital of her empire, a city built in orbit around a star that had once been a strategic battlefield. The architecture was breathtaking, a combination of technology and artistry that seemed alive, glowing with golden light. People from countless species moved through the streets, working together, trading knowledge, and sharing culture. Solis's influence had created a place where cooperation and understanding were the foundation of society. "You've created a new world," Elias said, marveling at the scene. "It's incredible," Solis smiled, a hint of fatigue behind her radiance. "It is not just my world," she said. "It is ours, all who chose to survive, to grow, and to help one another. Humanity has a place here, Elias."
"You taught me that life is precious and that compassion matters. That lesson will guide this empire for generations."
Despite the victories, Solis remained vigilant. She knew threats would continue to emerge, and the galaxy's future would never be certain. Yet she also knew that courage, unity, and intelligence, qualities Elias had embodied, could overcome even the greatest dangers. She began establishing councils where humans, aliens, and hybrids could contribute to decision-making, ensuring that no single species would dominate. Elias, though older than most of her advisors, was honored with a special place within these councils. His experience, wisdom, and perspective were invaluable. But more importantly, he remained a reminder of the choice that had set everything in motion. A human had chosen kindness, and the galaxy had changed because of it. One evening, Solis brought Elias to a quiet observation deck overlooking a restored world. The planet had been destroyed centuries ago, long before Elias had found her, but under Solis's guidance, it had been transformed into a sanctuary. Golden light flowed over its surface, healing the scars of war. Forests grew where craters had once burned, rivers shimmered with pure water, and the skies were alive with birds and creatures that had returned to the world.
"This was where I found you," Elias said, his voice trembling. "I never imagined it could be restored." Solis knelt beside him, her glowing hand resting gently on his shoulder. "Because of you, Elias," she said. "You chose to save a life."
That life grew, changed, and returned to heal the galaxy. This world is proof that even the smallest act of compassion can have infinite consequences. For the first time in decades, Elias felt at peace. He had lived a long life, faced dangers, and made choices he had hoped would matter. And now he could see the fruits of those choices. Solis, the child he had rescued, had grown into a leader whose vision and courage had reshaped the galaxy. Humanity had played a role in that transformation, and he had been part of the journey. As the sun set over the restored world, golden light spilling across the horizon, Solis spoke again.
"Elias, you have given me more than life. You taught me humanity."
"You taught me courage, empathy, and hope."
"I will carry those lessons forward, always." Elias smiled, tears welling in his eyes.
"I only did what I hoped anyone would do," he said. "I never imagined it would lead here."
Solis rose, her radiance illuminating the observation deck. "It is here, Elias, because of you." And now, the galaxy will remember that humanity, small though it may seem, can make a difference. One choice, one act of courage, can change the fate of millions. In the following months, Solis established new treaties, expanded her empire, and ensured that Earth was recognized as a founding member of the Interstellar Alliance. Humanity began to explore, trade, and contribute knowledge across the stars. Scientists, engineers, and explorers found new opportunities, inspired by Solis's example and the cooperation she had nurtured. Elias continued to guide and advise, but he also spent more time teaching younger generations about courage and empathy. Children listened wide-eyed as he told stories of a golden child saved on a dead world, of battles fought among the stars, and of the choices that could change the galaxy. His life, simple yet profound, became a legend, a reminder that heroism was not only about power, but about the heart. One quiet evening, Elias passed peacefully, surrounded by the life he had helped protect. Solis mourned him deeply, but she honored him not with sorrow, but with celebration. She created a golden monument on Earth, visible from orbit, shining like a beacon of hope. It depicted a human and a golden child standing together, hands joined, looking toward the stars. It was a symbol of courage, compassion, and the bond that had changed the galaxy forever. Solis continued to lead, guiding her empire with wisdom and strength, but she never forgot Elias. She often visited the monument, standing in quiet reflection, remembering the man who had saved her life and taught her what it meant to be truly human. Under her leadership, the galaxy flourished. Wars became less common as species learned to cooperate rather than conquer. Knowledge was shared freely, and explorers journeyed to distant systems, inspired by the example of humanity and the golden child who had returned to the stars. The restored world, once dead and lifeless, became a sanctuary where humans and aliens alike could learn, live, and grow. Solis ensured that its history would never be forgotten, that the story of courage and compassion that began with Elias would be passed down for generations. As she stood on the observation deck of her flagship, golden light flowing around her, Solis looked out at the galaxy. Stars shone brightly. Planets thrived, and life stretched across systems that had once known only death. The future was uncertain, but hope was alive. She had returned, and the galaxy would never be the same. And in her heart, she carried the memory of a man who had once chosen to save a child. A man whose courage had sparked a future where life, compassion, and courage could shine brighter than any star. The golden child had returned. But it was the humanity she had learned from Elias that truly guided her. The galaxy was vast, full of wonders and challenges, but Solis was ready. She had power, wisdom, and the lessons of humanity etched into her being. And as long as she stood, the promise of hope, courage, and unity would shine across the stars, a legacy of the bond between a man and a child, a bond that had changed everything.